Hello and thanks for joining us this morning. You're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Monday, March 23rd. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at this hour. South Korean stocks on Monday begin the week with a brief halt in trading after a sharp plunge. The Kospi and the Kosdaq are both down by over 6.3% half an hour into trading. $533 billion have vanished from the value of Korea's listed firms between February and March. The South Korean government is taking social distancing measures seriously. The Prime Minister says the country will be taking legal actions against religious organizations that don't follow the nation's quarantine guidelines. Plus, the International Olympic Committee says it is considering postponing the Tokyo Games, but says there won't be a cancellation, even with the coronavirus gripping the world. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, for the first time, says postponing the Olympics may have to be considered. Our starting point this morning, South Korean stocks are getting hammered once again on this Monday morning. Both South Korea's benchmark index Kospi and the secondary bourse Kosdaq opened more than 5% lower, which led to a temporary suspension of trading. For more on this, we have our Kim Dami on the line for us. So, Tami, it looks like we're seeing more of the way too many trading halts in the past couple of weeks. Tell us more.
Right, Taemin, South Korean stocks are once again off to a rocky start on Monday morning. That rebounded last week thanks to the $60 billion currency swap deal between Seoul and Washington, but are falling once again this morning. The benchmark Kospi plunged 5.86% at the opening, starting trading at 1474, and the Kosdaq was also down more than 5% at 433.5 at the opening. Because there was a difference of more than 5% from the previous close, a sidecar was activated to temporarily suspend stock trading for 5 minutes. And in the 2 months since South Korea confirmed its very first COVID-19 case, 1/3 of local companies' market capitalization has disappeared into thin air. This is according to local market research firm Korea CXO Institute on Monday. The institute analyzed the top 100 local companies from January 20th to March 20th. Their market cap dropped from around $686 billion to $502 billion. So in just over 2 months, the company's value dropped almost 30%.
And Tommy, it's not just the local companies that are getting hit, but the global stock market continues to suffer from this ongoing pandemic.
Right. The COVID-19 crisis has wiped out almost 1/3 of the value from global stock markets over the past month. According to Bloomberg's analysis of the stock markets of 86 countries, the value of the global stock market marked around $62 trillion as of Thursday, dropping 29.2% from the previous month. That loss is approximately 17 times the GDP of South Korea. 40 out of 86 countries saw more than a 30% drop, with Colombia shedding more than 50% due to both the outbreak and falling global oil prices. The U.S. also saw an over 30% fall during the same period. That's all from me, Semin.
Thank you, our economic correspondent Kim Dami with those market numbers. South Korean Prime Minister Chung says stern legal action should be taken against religious groups that pushed ahead with worship services last weekend despite warnings not to because of the coronavirus outbreak. Speaking during a meeting at the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure headquarters on this Monday morning, Chung said the government's administrative order to suspend large gatherings should not be considered a bluff. He again stressed the need to implement strict social distancing. He also added that the authorities are looking into strengthened quarantine measures to prevent people with COVID-19 coming into the country from abroad. The Prime Minister also vowed to personally check on support for small businesses and provide weekly updates. And South Korean health authorities are on high alert as the country is witnessing an increase in the number of imported cases of the COVID-19. According to the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 15% of the newly confirmed cases in South Korea on Saturday alone were imported cases. A majority of them were people who flew in from European countries. South Korea has reported 34 imported cases from places including Europe, the U.S., and Canada. South Korea's presidential office, via the government, will distribute emergency disaster funds to those hardest hit by the coronavirus outbreak through the issuance of national bonds. Now, the scope of who will be eligible is due to be unveiled at this week's Emergency Economic Council meeting. Our Kim Yo-jong reports.
Upon revealing the South Korean government's COVID-19 support package worth nearly $40 billion at last week's Emergency Economic Council, President Moon Jae-in mentioned that additional support measures were in the pipeline.
국민의 삶이 무너지는 것을 막는 것이 최우선입니다. 조속한 시일 내에 실효성이 있는 취약계층 지원 방안이 논의될 수 있도록 준비해 주기 바랍니다.
The top office called for local governments to use their respective budgets to allocate funds for damage support and allow the use of emergency management funds collected by the 17 cities and provinces to support those suffering the most. The central government is also considering financial support through the issuance of national bonds. A Blue House official said that the exact amount and scope of who will receive the support still needs to be discussed, but the move is inevitable. The main opposition United Future Party suggested the issuance of some $32 billion worth of national bonds to overcome the outbreak.
First, I suggest practical support be given to those in need. Second, sustainable support such as jobs. And third, support that will not threaten the nation's financial situation.
While the government and the main opposition party are generally on the same page, they differ slightly on the amount of support that should be given. The Blue House is expected to put the issue on the agenda at this week's Emergency Economic Council meeting. Kim Yo-jong, Arirang News.
The International Olympic Committee has a big decision to make regarding the Tokyo Olympics, given the rapid spread of the coronavirus around the world. And for the first time, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe admitted this Monday that Tokyo might have to consider postponing the Games if they cannot be held safely. Our Lee Seung-jae with the details.
With the start of the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics just over 4 months away, the International Olympic Committee is under enormous pressure to decide what option to take as the world struggles to cope with the COVID-19 outbreak. On Sunday, the IOC held an emergency meeting to step up its scenario planning for the Tokyo Olympics. According to the IOC, the most likely scenario would be to change the July 24th start date, but emphasize that a full cancellation would not solve any of the problems. The IOC says that in full coordination with the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee, Japanese authorities, and the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, it will assess the worldwide health situation and its impact on the Games and announce its decision in the next 4 weeks. The statement is the first on record from the IOC that the Olympics could be postponed, despite weeks of assurances that the Games would go forward as planned. Officials are also considering other options, which include scaling back the Games or even holding them behind closed doors. Those options will be debated by the organizing committee at the end of the month. The IOC is facing increasing opposition to the current schedule for the Olympics, as athletes, teams, and federations continue to call for a postponement in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The death toll from the coronavirus pandemic continues its surge in Europe, with Italy fatalities rising by 651 on Sunday to stand at over 5,400. Now, the total number of cases now exceeded 59,000, up nearly 5,600 from the day before. But Italian health officials say that this is the lowest on-day increase since the contagion first began on February 21st. Spain saw its accumulated death toll at 1,720 as of Sunday. Over 28,000 cases have been reported, with 10% of that being medical staff. The U.S. had over 31,000 confirmed cases and nearly 400 deaths as of Sunday local time. With New York becoming the hardest hit state with over 15,000 cases, Governor Andrew Cuomo called on the federal government to provide medical supplies like ventilators. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has gone into self-quarantine at her home after having contact with a doctor who tested positive for the virus. An official said Merkel will be tested regularly over the coming days and will continue to conduct her duties from home. Germany has so far seen more than 23,000 cases with at least 92 deaths. Over the Atlantic, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky has tested positive for the virus, becoming the first U.S. senator to test positive. His office says he is asymptomatic and was tested out of an abundance of caution due to his extensive travel and events. Still, his diagnosis is setting off concerns over whether other senators who might have been in contact with Paul should immediately self-quarantine. U.S. President Donald Trump says his administration is willing to help all countries in need during the COVID-19 outbreak, and that includes North Korea and Iran. Here's President Trump speaking a few hours ago during a COVID-19 task force briefing at the White House.
If they need help, we'll give them help. There's nobody has what we have, especially with the new tests that are coming out. North Korea, Iran, by the way, and others. We are open for helping other countries. And there's a very serious time, and North Korea is going through something. Iran is going through something very, very strong. North Korea, Iran, and many other countries, we will help.
Now, this as President Trump confirmed he sent a letter to North Korea's Kim Yo-jong offering help to tackle the pandemic. So far, North Korea has not confirmed any coronavirus within its borders. There's a fresh speculation that the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un could have been promoted up the ranks of the regime. Now, this comes as Kim Yo-jong released her second official statement on Sunday, through which she commented on a letter sent to her brother by U.S. President Donald Trump on possible cooperation to combat the pandemic. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
It looks like Kim Yo-jong, the younger sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has achieved elevated status within the regime. She released her second official statement on Sunday, disclosing that U.S. President Donald Trump sent Kim Jong-un a letter expressing Washington's intention to cooperate with Pyongyang to fight the coronavirus. Kim Yo-jong said President Trump's letter signaled the exceptional friendship between the two leaders, but added whether relations between the two countries live up to the personal ties between Kim and Trump remains to be seen. This could be a sign that she's aggressively weighing in on Pyongyang-Washington relations, as well as the inter-Korean agenda. Observers speculate the two leaders could be preparing to meet sometime in the future.
The statement implies the regime's intent to maintain friendly ties with the U.S. It could also be getting ready as there's the possibility President Trump will be re-elected.
However, Kim Yo-jong pointed out that President Trump's letter came at a time when big difficulties and challenges stand in the way of developing bilateral ties, in possible reference to U.S. sanctions on the regime. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Good morning. The fine spring weather pattern continues today for most regions. A chilly morning will turn into a balmy afternoon with wide temperature gaps of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. So by the afternoon, most regions will see highs in the mid to upper teens, Seoul getting up to 16 degrees, 19 degrees for Daegu. Gyeongju will top out at 20 degrees this afternoon under clear skies. And what's more, we'll have good air quality across the country, so it should be a nice day to air out your rooms at home. Meanwhile, the air is getting dry with dry weather alerts in place for eastern parts of the country. And those in Ulsan and parts of Gyeongsangbuk-do province are under dry weather warnings though. Thankfully, nationwide rain is in the forecast between Thursday and Saturday, and that should ease the dryness in the air, while the spring spell continues with big gaps between lows and highs. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for views around the world.
That is our time at this hour on Arirang News, but we'll be back with more of the headlines in the later newscast coming up at noon Korea time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.